Listen, are you totally exhausted from just trying to do it all? Well, what if I told you that extraordinary results do not come from expanding your effort, but actually from radically narrowing your focus? Welcome to this explainer of the one thing by Gary Keller and Papasan. Today, we're going to completely rewire how you look at productivity. We're stripping away all that noise to zero in on the exact mechanics of how intensely focusing on a single, vital task is your true secret to unlocking massive success. So get ready to shift your mindset.
Seriously, what if doing less actually achieved more? I mean, right now, you're probably feeling completely overwhelmed by this endless to-do list, right? Just caught in the trap of being constantly busy. We are all conditioned to believe that if we just hustle harder, if we just cram one more task into our day, we're finally going to get ahead. But that is an illusion. Doing more absolutely does not equal achieving more. It usually just equals burnout. This explainer is going to challenge that illusion head-on and show you a vastly more effective path.
And that brings us to the central thesis from the source material, captured perfectly in this quote from Gary Keller. Extraordinary results are directly determined by how narrow you can make your focus. I want you to read that again. It's not about how wide your net is. It's about how sharp your spear is. If you really want to achieve something phenomenal, you've got to stop scattering your energy across 50 different things. You have to channel all of that power into a single, highly concentrated beam. That is the essential mindset shift we've got to make today.
Okay, let's dive into this with section 1, the focusing question.
So, how do we actually narrow our focus in a world that is constantly demanding our attention? Well, the book offers a really powerful foundational framework. Just ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This isn't just some clever prompt. It literally needs to become your daily mantra. You ask this at the macro level for your 5-year goals, and you ask it at the micro level for your schedule this very afternoon. This question acts like a machete, just cutting right through the dense jungle of competing priorities, urgent emails, and endless distractions to reveal your true path forward. To prove that this dramatic narrowing works way better than just working harder, the book shares this incredible pivotal story from Gary Keller's own life. Early on, his real estate career was on the verge of failing. He was running in 100 different directions. But then a mentor challenged him to step back and identify the single most important activity that would actually drive his business forward. He stopped trying to do everything and focused entirely on that one critical thing. And you know what? That single shift wasn't just helpful, it was the definitive turning point that built his entire empire. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is section 2, the domino effect. When you identify your one thing, you're actually setting up a powerful chain reaction. Think about how dominoes work. Physicists have actually shown that a domino can knock over another domino that's roughly 50% larger than itself. Step 1 is just that small initial action, knocking down the first seemingly tiny domino. Let's use an everyday example here. Imagine you're completely overwhelmed by a massive exam syllabus. Your first domino might just be deeply studying the one foundational chapter that explains all the core formulas. By doing that one small thing, step 2 kicks in, momentum builds. Now all the subsequent chapters just make sense faster. And suddenly, step 3 happens. Larger outcomes topple. You pass the exam with ease. Or in business, maybe your first domino is securing just one key local supplier, which instantly lowers your shipping costs, increases your margins, and boom, funds your next expansion. It's all about finding that lead domino. This quote beautifully summarizes the whole concept. Success is built sequentially, one domino at a time, not achieved simultaneously. Guys, you do not have to tackle everything all at once. Stop trying to push over a giant wall of 1,000 dominoes at the exact same time with your bare hands. Just find the first one, line it up, push it over. Starting with the smallest, most immediate priority triggers a massive cascade of progress that honestly does the heavy lifting for you.
All right, section 3, the multitasking myth.
We need to take a hard pivot here because everything we just discussed is constantly threatened by a major modern obsession. We've got to dismantle a habit that's actively sabotaging your extraordinary results. On the left, we see true focus, one task yielding high-quality results. But on the right is what the authors call switch tasking. Because here is the scientific truth presented in the source material. The human brain cannot actually multitask. No way. It does not process 2 complex tasks simultaneously. What it's actually doing is switching rapidly back and forth between them. And this switch tasking carries a severe cognitive tax. Every single time you bounce from writing a report to checking your email and back again, you are paying a heavy toll in focus, energy, and the overall quality of your output. I'm going to deliver the harsh truth straight from the text. Multitasking is a lie. It makes you feel incredibly busy, and sure, maybe that boosts your ego in the moment, but professionals who pride themselves on juggling a dozen tasks at once are actually deceiving themselves. The research shows they consistently produce lower quality work, and ironically, it takes them way longer overall to finish their projects than the person who just puts their head down and finishes one thing first. So, the crucial point is section 4, the power of saying no. If singular focus is our goal, how do we actually protect it? Well, you have to understand that true focus is fiercely expensive because your time and your daily energy are strictly finite. Committing to a clear priority inevitably means you must say no to many other reasonable, perfectly good opportunities. A yes to your one thing is a simultaneous no to almost everything else. Listen, if you are afraid to say no, you're never going to have the bandwidth to achieve the extraordinary.
The book defines discipline in a very specific way here. It's not about waking up at 4 a.m. or, taking cold plunges. In this context, discipline is the active practice of deliberately turning down legitimate opportunities that just do not align with your current one thing. The author studied highly successful people and found that it wasn't just raw talent or blind luck that got them there. Not at all. It was their absolute ruthless discipline in rejecting good distractions so they could aggressively pursue great priorities.
Now for section 5, time block your priority. So, we've covered the theory and the mindset. Now I want to bring some high energy to how we practically execute this on a random Tuesday morning. How do we ensure the one thing actually gets done? Well, here is your daily action plan. You must schedule dedicated, heavily protected time for your one thing at the very start of planning your day or your week. Do not wait to see how the day unfolds. Do not wait for a magical gap in your schedule. You have to treat this time block as a totally non-negotiable appointment with yourself. I mean, if a VIP client asked for a meeting, you wouldn't stand them up, right? You need to treat your one thing with that exact same level of absolute reverence. I really want to let this quote sink in for a second. Until your one thing is scheduled, it doesn't really exist as a priority. It's just an intention competing with everything else. A goal without a dedicated block of time on your calendar is literally just a wish. The people who actually build their schedules around their priority consistently and massively outperform the people who try to squeeze their priority into whatever leftover time they happen to find at the end of the long day.
Section 6, the 4 thieves. Of course, it's not going to be perfectly smooth sailing. The real world is absolutely going to fight back. So to sustain this level of focus, you need to be prepared for the practical hurdles. First, there's the inability to say no, which we actually just discussed. Second, the fear of chaos, because when you focus intensely on one thing, other lesser things will get messy, and you just have to learn to be okay with that. Third, poor health and low energy. You obviously can't focus if you're running on fumes. And fourth, an unsupportive environment. The book points out that most failures in sustained focus don't trace back to a lack of ambition or desire. They trace directly back to these 4 thieves sneaking into your day.
You cannot just white-knuckle your way through these obstacles. These 4 thieves require active management, not just raw willpower. Genuine ambition gets quietly undermined every single day by a messy desk, a super distracting office mate, or a terrible sleep schedule. You have to actively engineer your surroundings and manage your personal energy so that focusing on your one thing naturally becomes the path of least resistance. Let's move to and see how this all builds in section 7, purpose, priority, and productivity. Let's look at how all this builds into the ultimate framework for your life. We've talked about daily actions and protecting your time, but how does that actually connect to your overarching why? The book frames this relationship perfectly through a downward flow. Step 1 is purpose, your big picture, your ultimate long-term destination. Step 2 is priority, the strategic milestones that your purpose implies you absolutely must hit right now. And step 3 is productivity, the literal daily action, that time-blocked one thing you are doing today. If you want extraordinary results, these 3 levels must be perfectly aligned. Your daily productivity has to flow directly downward from your ultimate purpose. This is a stark warning from the authors right here. Purpose without priority is empty, and priority without productivity is an illusion. I want you to think about people you know who are incredibly productive day to day, checking off 100 boxes, but their tasks just aren't connected to a larger purpose. They end up living busy, frantic, but ultimately directionless lives. True success requires the linkage of all 3. Your big picture must dictate your daily action. We've covered a massive shift in how to operate today. moving from scattered busyness to laser-like focus. I want to leave you with the single most powerful tool from this explainer. Look at the question on the screen. Write it down, put it on your mirror. Ask yourself this right now and every single morning going forward. What's the one thing you could do today that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? Find your domino, push it over. Start today.